So now, just want to talk a little bit more about the um, meeting with the client. We talked a little bit about the grading plans, but if we're in this 3, 4, 5 week period of preparing these improvement plans, do you meet with the client very much on these plans?
Yes, I do, and I really want to sit down with my client and explain to him not only the requirements and what the commitments are, as part of the development, but also have him have a good understanding, what he's out there for. What kind of costs are associated with, traffic signals, bridges. Fire hydrants, street lights, and then just the simple construction of the road, along with the utilities.
So if I'm a project manager for a builder and you're working on my project, what would you expect the client would want to meet with you? Or is it weekly? Is it every other week? Where in the process?
I would say for the improvement plans, just because they're a little more rigid and cut, straightforward, that it probably only meet once prior to the submittal,
Okay.
and then you probably want to at least get in with the water or sewer district, maybe even the city prior to submitting, just to make sure that the boxes are checked and everything is shown as per the conditions of approval from the tenant map.
So now let's talk a little bit about quantities. We talked about it with the grading that, they're calculating the dirt quantities that are going to be, part of not only the city wants to know, but your grading contractor wants to know as well. We're going to have the same thing here where you're going to have quantities of pipe and fixtures and catch basins and things that are going to be on here. Is that all done in your system, or how do you calc those quantities? And
Yeah, since we draw everything one to one in AutoCAD or a CAD-based system, it's very easy to get quantities on virtually everything. So if you have, 1,500 feet or a subdivision, 70 lot subdivision, you have your water line, following your streets, you're really able to just list that line and get a dimension or a length on it. You add those up, along with whatever your fire hydrants, your gate valves, every sort of appurtenance that is part of that water line, and you can quantify it very easily.
so, and what's really important about the quantities, one is you're going to be getting bids from contractors to install it. Again, if you're doing the work yourself, or if you're selling the land unimproved to a builder, he's going to do the estimates. And what I've seen a lot is, there's separate consultants that do cost estimating, and a lot of time they do their own quantity calculations. And by the way, it's kind of known as takeoffs sometimes, which are taking it off the plans. And I think what happens is you'll see these cost estimators do their own takeoffs or quantity calcs, and they'll be testing against yours and just seeing if they match up with what they see on the plans and so forth. But it's a really important aspect, whether you're negotiating with your contractor or whether you're negotiating with a builder who's going to buy your land, because they're applying costs that affects, let's say it's with a builder, of what their costs are going to be and what they can pay for the land. And I can tell you it's a big negotiating item, and you go back and forth and you're looking at the plans, and even if the civil engineer has got some quantities, they're going to come and say, well, that's going to need more than that, and so again, it does though get a lot more fine-tuned when it's done through the final engineering, where you might have quantities during the preliminary engineering and tentative map process, and it's a little bit more uncertain. So it is a good part of final engineering, especially if your plans are approved by the city. You pretty much know your quantities and you know what you're required to build. So,
Yes.
so we talked about that. It's generally, 3, 4, 5 weeks to submit them, and we'll talk about later, as we will, about the grading, about the city processing and the plan check.